Hi everybody, it's me, Jennifer Stenhouse from Little Metal Fluxes, and I've got some tool tips for you tonight. So join me, won't you? Yes, hi. And we've got lots to talk about tonight. We've got some fun classes coming up that I want to remind you about. And, oh, hey there, how are you all? A couple of things that are interesting about strikers and lighting some flames in your studio and getting you updated on the classes coming up in May. So I hope you'll join me. We've got a lot of cool things going on. So what I wanted to do tool talk about tonight is the strikers. They are essential for lighting your little fires, but some particular torches, like the butane torches, have a striker built in, so those can be kind of convenient. They already have like an igniter built into the front of the torch, so those can be kind of handy. So some of you may not need a striker at all. You might need just that and you're good to go, and a bottle of butane, and hooray. But for those of us that are using things like an acetylene torch or a Smith Little torch, it's necessary to have something that can strike it and get your fire going so you can solder. So there are a couple of things you guys are probably familiar with. One of them is the regular old everyday striker, and these are really common in the welding studios, in sculpture studio, and casting studios, where you're usually lighting a big torch and you need to make a striker spark to start your flame. So these have a couple of moving parts that are good to know about. They are a spring contraption. In here you've got a piece of steel, and on the end you've got a piece of flint. So you can see this one's been worn down a little bit. It has like a little groove in the end of it, and it sort of snaps over like that, boop, and pops into the little cup. And when you rub the striker, the flint, against the textured steel there, it creates a spark. So for a lot of people, this can be a little tricky. It's kind of like learning how to snap your fingers, but it's all about that motion. Oh yeah, Chris says he keeps his on a magnet on the back of his, keeps it right next to his torch, so that can be really handy. Good tip. So this is, you know, a pretty simple contraption, but for some people they don't have the hand strength and coordination to be able to hold the torch and be able to strike at the same time. And I've been using this thing for years, so for me it's sort of second nature. And again, it's kind of like snapping your fingers. So I usually have my thumb on the back of the bump here and my hand across it like this, so I can pull down on the flint as I go across. If you're holding it kind of like this and you can't get a good strike, it's because you're kind of lifting the flint off of the steel that's making the strike. The other thing people don't realize is that the flint can wear down. So this, twist off, it just unscrews off like this. So when it gets down to the aluminum, you just take that off, and you can buy additional flints like these. These just pop right out of the little plastic holder like that, and you can pop on a new one, screw it right on, like so, and that goes right back into your striker like that. And it takes, I usually will kind of break this in a little bit and rub it back and forth until it gets a little bit of a groove built up, and then it usually will slide across that steel striking surface pretty easily, the scratch surface. So so check your striker, and I usually check mine. If I feel like it's not creating a good spark, I will, you know, throw these out and get a new one. And you can usually pick up the replacements at the same place that you would be able to get your tanks. So any of the, or where you get your gas refilled. So if your striker is not working anymore, check out your flint, and it might need to be replaced. These are very inexpensive, and they usually come in a little 3, 5, 6-pack like that. And but these are pretty common. So, but what are the alternatives? Because this can be a pain in the butt if you don't know, if you're not used to using it, if you're just trying to light your torch and get stuff done. This can be a little inconvenient and a little bit of overkill for something like a Smith torch or a smaller scale torch. So, hey Michelle, how are you? So one of the other cool strikers is this one. So instead of trying to like snap your fingers and figure that thing out, this one is just a little trigger pull. And these are kind of nice because they are just a simple trigger, and I do need to replace the flint in this one. This one I have to lift up, move it over, drop a flint in, and move it back. So, but these are kind of nice because they're like a little, almost like the old cap guns that would create a spark when you snapped it over. So, yeah. So this is another option of something that's pretty easy to strike. So, but if you're like, I don't want to play with one of those. I don't have room for it. I don't want to think about it. I just want something that I'm going to be able to just go to and it's going to light my torch instantly. Well, there's always fire. So if you've got a little bit of a candle, tea light, and I usually use this for some of my waxworking stuff, but I would recommend getting a tea light that is in a metal or a candle that has ceramic or something that's, a concrete or metal base to it. Tea lights with a metal cup usually work better than those that have plastic, just for fire safety. So, so I do recommend those rather than the plastic. But I usually have a pack of matches and a candle in my studio to be able to light things like that. And these work great when you're trying to light your torch, because all you have to do is like lower it down enough where it'll ignite your flame. So if you're going back and forth, turning it on, turning it off, turning it on, turning it off, it might be a good idea to have a little tea light on your bench so that you can just continue to light it really quickly, right? So that's easy. But this is my favorite, and this is my go-to for just about everyday torch lighting. And this one is a torch mate. This is actually a battery-powered torch mate. They have a couple of batteries in them, and there are a couple of different versions of this that will light your torches. So that just snaps closed. There's also an on-off button on the bottom of these, which is convenient. So when you're using it and it's at your bench, it's on, and you just have to press it down to get your spark. And if it's not in use, or you're just you're storing it someplace, make sure you turn it off so it's not striking and sparking, when you're not around or in travel, or if you're moving it around, you want to make sure you've got it off. And I'd also take the step to take the batteries out if you're moving your studio or something. But this one, when you turn it on, there we go, creates a little spark on the inside. Isn't that crazy? It's like a little lightning bolt on the inside of this. So I think you can see, yeah, there it is. You can kind of see it jumping around on the inside. So these are not too terribly expensive, and all you have to do is sort of touch down on the little silver button there, and it creates the spark. So I usually do like a little, my Smith torch, just kind of stick it in like that, and it'll light the torch for me. So real simple solutions for lighting the torches. The things that I would avoid for safety reasons, no matter what, is something like the just a regular lighter. I would never use like a Bic lighter to light my torches, because it's like lighting one torch with another torch that has a fuel source in it. I've seen people, and this actually happened in one of my classes, beginning classes many years ago. One of the girls, after being warned not to do that, had set her lighter, her Bic lighter, on the solder board diagonal from where she was soldering, and just the ambient heat went across, melted a hole in the lighter, and it flared back at her and burned her eyebrow, one of her eyebrows, and her bangs off. So it just like instantly like flashed her and set her hair on fire. So please be careful with having something like a lighter on your bench that has fuel in it, because they can melt, they can flash, they do have a fuel source in them. One of the things that Julia would recommend is, if you happen to see a disposable lighter that still has a good flint, that will actually still work to light your torches, but still you've got to have the dexterity to light it. I would make sure that the bottom is cut off of that. If there's still the striker on the top, flint that's on top is still working. But just safety, and for convenience and cost, this is so worth the money to me. I really appreciate this one. There's another one for like Gang Studios that has 4 strikers on it with the battery operation. So those work pretty well too. So anyway, so whatever your choice is, your striker, make sure you're maintaining it, or your electric striker, or even just a simple candle operation. Those are all good, easy things to be able to do to light your torch in your studio and make sure you're being safe, right? So, yay. Michelle says that I find with the Smith little torch, she has to turn on the torch upside down to light it because it doesn't fit well into the channel. And that's I usually turn mine to the side to do it that way. It depends on which tip you have on your torch, but you may find that you have to kind of lay it down on that to get it to ignite. So yeah, with the bigger tips like the acetylene torch here, I still even lay it down like tip sideways to get it to light. But yeah, that channel's pretty narrow, and but it does work really well for the smaller torches, I think. Yeah, so there you go. And when I'm working with the Smith little torch, a lot of people will sit there and just like let it click away. Make sure when you're using your Smith torch that you know, open the gas for a second, open the oxygen for a second, let the ambient air out of the line, because there's no gas in the line when you're first starting it. So it takes a minute for the gas to travel from your tank all the way up to your torch tip. So bleed it out, that the ambient gas out, before you try and strike it, and that'll save you a little time. And, you know, flints as well, especially if you're using a striker, because you'll be there striking it the entire time while the gas is trying to get up from the tank to your handle through the hose. But it does take a second, so bleed it out for a second and then do your lighting. Same is true with the oxygen. Let it stabilize first, let that ambient air push through until your oxygen gets to the tip. So just sort of turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, and then you usually have your gas coming up a little more easily and your oxygen balanced out for pressure a little bit before you light your torch. So, lighting your torch, tips, yay! I know it can be intimidating when you're sitting there and you can't quite get it to light. So, you know, finding good solutions, easy solutions that don't intimidate you and make it more difficult to light your torch is always a good plan. So find one that works for you and share that with us if you have a chance. So, what's coming up? All kinds of good things. We've got, coming up tomorrow, in fact, we've got the tube settings and alterations, where I'll be talking about working with not just round tubes, but square and all kinds of alternative shapes for tubing as well, how to alter the tubing into a flared tubing, and hey Brent, and how to do a couple of different changes with using things like square tubing, or like I said, altering the shape of your tubing to a flare and creating some interesting modified tubes as well. So tube settings is tomorrow. I believe we've got a couple of seats left in there. Flush setting is coming up next week on Thursday. So flush setting, made real simple, 5 steps, completely demystified. The students usually come away with a sample of flush setting, and I make it real easy for you to learn how to do small scale round flush set stones. It's a lot easier than you might think, and again, I completely demystify it and show you how you can do it in just a couple of steps, and with a little bit of practice you'll be setting stones like a champ. Small stones are real easy to do with flush setting, like 1.5 millimeter to 3 millimeter work great for that. So if you want to learn how to like shove a stone into a piece of metal, that's your class. Also too, that gala theme, we've got on the Gilded Age, we've got all kinds of gold classes and gold working parts and accessories and things coming up. So adding gold overlay and other surface solutions, using gold scrap, gold fill, and oh hey Jen, and all kinds of other things. So doing gold overlay, it's not Kambu, it's similar to Kambu, but we're actually adding it onto the surface and layering different kinds of gold, including gold fill and your gold scrap onto the surface to add a really beautiful range of color value and visual value, actual value to the pieces, and give you a little bit of color option in the meantime. So we've got bezels, and that's going to include things like gallery wires and creating your own. And yeah, then we should, Michelle said we should call it Shove a Stone in a Piece of Metal class. That's exactly what it is. Made easy. And but we've got prongs and pedestals and back setting and adding gold to your bezels, and all of those have a little bit of room, as well as the working with gold fill, which is coming up later in June. But in the next couple of weeks, we've got a great stone setting series. So if you want to join us for any of those, please do, including tomorrow night. And the bezels class. Bezels are one of those things, and I will say this a million times, bezels are one of those things that they seem like they should be really easy, but they're not. They're really kind of hard to do, and they're hard to do well and to finish. And a lot of times in the intro classes, they don't teach you how to really finish a bezel setting. And some tips and tricks to make it easier to do. So if you've ever struggled with bezels, soldering them down, getting them finished, that's going to be your class on May 19th. So I hope you'll join us for that. And back set is actually the one I'm wearing right now. Ow! So this is one of the back set stones. Hello, there it is. And I've used actually a piece of gallery wire around the top of that, and using a little bit of gold fill sheet on the front to create a really super flat window for that stone, and it's actually set from the back side. So it's not upside down, it is right side up, so that's actually the face of the stone. But this is a really great way to be able to create settings for unusual shapes, especially to integrate it into your design, and especially for bigger stones, trapezoidal, pear shapes, whatever your weird shape is, this can be a great solution for those stones. So if you've got some odd shaped stones and you're like, I don't know what to do with it, join us for that, because the back settings are a really great alternative to setting some great shapes and doing some really cool stone setting. So join us for that. And what else is coming up? Etch in a Bag. There's still a few seats for Etch in a Bag left. This sold out last time, and I highly recommend it. We actually offered the second section because we had so many people that wanted that class so bad. And Etch in a Bag is going to be taught by Julia. It is absolutely the coolest thing. I started out as a printmaker, so for me, when she was showing me this, I was like, okay, that's just that's just brilliant. So so Etch in a Bag is coming up on June 11th. So if you're interested in doing roller mill textures and plates, or adding surface decoration to your pieces, that's, you know, one of a kind, clip art, whatever, making your own rolling mill plates too, Etch in a Bag is coming up for $40. It is amazing bunch of information. So highly recommend that. But we've got lots of adding gold to your pieces and stone setting and all kinds of cool things coming up. So I hope you'll join us for that. And as usual, all of the tooltips are on our YouTube account, so you can go and check those out. There's over 60 of those now, so we've got a whole bunch of tooltips and free content. There's also, just so you know, because people ask this all the time, it's like they want to take a class, but they know they're going to miss it, or they've signed up for a class and they're going to miss it. All of the videos are available for at least 30 days after the class. And we've actually had people that have bought a class that just happened because they didn't know it was going on. So you still have access to the class for 30 days. We really encourage you guys to come to the class and participate, which is part of the thing, but if you happen to miss it, you still have access to it. So join us for that. We want to make sure that you guys, get the information. We've also got some plans for some basic classes coming up that are going to be available that you can take anytime. And one of the other things I would highly recommend with any of your jewelry classes, whether you're taking ours or somebody else's, we have a safety class on studio safety and chemicals that that is available for $10, and that's just to cover our administrative cost. So I would highly recommend it for any of, if there is anybody out there that's teaching high school or student classes, please, show it to them. If you are in your own studio and are a little intimidated by the amount of chemicals that are in your studio safety chemicals is a great recorded class that you guys can actually watch. It was taught a while back, but we wanted to make it available for anybody that had their studio. So, but it goes through chemicals, lighting, ventilation, everything. So if you have ever been concerned about, what you're working with, how to dispose of things like pickle and so on, it's the full class that's available, but it's available for $10. So, so I really encourage you guys to take that, whether you're taking classes with us or somebody else. It's well worth the $10. And like I said, that's just to cover our administrative cost on the video. And but we'd rather have you guys safe and making art in a safe, responsible way, rather than not knowing and then being hurt or something later. So there you go. So please check that out. And if you have any questions, of course, or there's a tooltip that you'd like us to do, please do direct message us. Let us know. We're always happy to take a look and see what your tooltips are or what you'd like to do. And if you have some tooltips that you want to share with us, please do share that. And that's everything tonight. So I hope you guys are having a great week. Happy Mother's Day coming up this weekend, and we will see you again soon. I will do cool tips on next Tuesday. So see you then, and have a great week. Bye, everybody.